The link arrived at 2:17 in the morning. Mara had not been sleeping much lately, so the soft buzz of her phone did not startle her. She was sitting upright in bed, the room dim, except for the streetlight leaking through the blinds, drawing pale lines across the ceiling. The rest of the apartment was silent, in the way only a city apartment can be at that hour, when even the traffic seems to breathe instead of roar. She glanced at the screen, expecting spam or a wrong number. It was from Daniel. Her chest tightened before she could stop it. They had not spoken in 11 months and 3 days. She knew because she had counted at first, then tried to stop counting, then found herself counting again in quieter ways. 11 months since he walked out, with a single duffel bag and a face she barely recognized. 11 months since she stood by the kitchen sink, her hands wet and trembling, and listened to the door close. The message contained no greeting, just a link, no explanation, no apology, no warning. Her thumb hovered over it. She told herself she did not care. She told herself she would delete it, but her body betrayed her. Her heart beat harder, her throat went dry, and the ache she had carefully folded away began to unfold again. She tapped it. The screen shifted to a video page. The thumbnail showed a stage, a microphone, a crowd blurred into a soft sea of faces. The title was simple, Finding the Courage to Stay. Her stomach dropped. She pressed play. The video opened, with the low murmur of an audience settling into their seats. The camera focused on the stage as a man stepped into the light. For a second she did not recognize him. He looked thinner, his hair shorter, his beard trimmed in a way that made him seem both older and younger at once. Then he smiled, and she knew. Daniel cleared his throat and gripped the microphone with both hands. He looked nervous, the way he used to before meeting her parents for the first time. The way he looked the night he proposed, kneeling on the uneven dock by the lake. "I almost didn't come tonight," he began, his voice echoing softly through the speakers. "I almost stayed home because I was afraid of what I might have to admit." Mara felt the words land in her chest. He continued, talking about fear, about how it disguises itself as logic, how it whispers that leaving is easier than staying, how it convinces you that running away is strength. She remembered the night he left. The argument had not even been explosive. It had been quiet. That was what frightened her most. Quiet and final. "You deserve someone better," he had said, staring at the floor. She had laughed then, a broken sound. "That's not your decision. I can't give you what you need." "You don't even know what I need," she had whispered. He had looked up at her, and in his eyes she saw something she had never seen before. Not anger, not resentment. It was fear, deep and unmovable. Now on the screen he spoke about that fear. "I loved someone more than I knew how to handle," he said to the audience. "And instead of rising to meet that love, I let my insecurities convince me that I would fail her. So I left before I could be left." The room around Mara seemed to shrink. He spoke about therapy, about long nights alone in a studio apartment that felt like punishment, about realizing that self-sabotage can masquerade as sacrifice. He admitted he had told himself he was freeing her, when in truth he was freeing himself from the risk of not being enough. A tear slid down her cheek, hot and unwelcome. He never said her name, but he did not need to. "She asked me once what I was so afraid of," he continued, his voice roughening. "I didn't answer her then. I couldn't, but I know now. I was afraid that if she saw all of me, she would realize I wasn't worth loving. So I left before she had the chance." Mara pressed her hand against her mouth. The camera cut briefly to the audience. Some were nodding. Some were crying. Daniel looked directly into the lens. "And if she ever sees this," he said softly, "I want her to know that leaving was the biggest mistake of my life. I'm not asking for forgiveness tonight. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed to say it out loud. I was wrong." The video ended with applause that sounded distant and hollow. Mara stared at the dark screen, her own reflection faintly visible. She did not know how long she sat there. Her phone grew warm in her hand. Part of her wanted to throw it across the room. Part of her wanted to call him immediately. Another part, the most fragile part, wanted to pretend she had never seen it. Why now? Why send this after months of silence? Her mind replayed the final weeks before he left. The way he had grown quieter, The way he flinched when she talked about the future. She had thought he was losing interest. She had tried harder, cooked more, asked fewer questions, made herself smaller in ways she did not even notice at the time. After he left, she had told herself she would never shrink for anyone again. She slid out of bed and walked to the kitchen. The tile felt cold under her bare feet. She poured herself a glass of water but did not drink it. At 2:46 in the morning, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Daniel. I didn't know how else to say it. She stared at the words. So simple, so insufficient. Her fingers moved before she could overthink it. Why didn't you say it to me? The typing indicator appeared almost immediately. Because I didn't think I deserved to. She felt anger flare, sharp and protective. That wasn't your choice. There was a long pause. You're right, he replied. She leaned against the counter, her heartbeat loud in her ears. Why send it now, she typed. Another pause, longer this time. Because I've spent 11 months learning how to stop running. And I didn't want another day to pass without telling you the truth. She closed her eyes. The truth. She had built a life in his absence. It had not been glamorous or dramatic. It was quiet and steady. She had started painting again, something she had abandoned during the chaos of their final months. She had gone to therapy herself, though she never told him. She had learned how to sit with loneliness without letting it devour her. She had also learned that love does not excuse abandonment. Her phone buzzed once more. I don't expect anything from you, he wrote. I just needed you to know I'm not the man who left. Her chest ached at that. Not because she believed it fully, but because she wanted to. She typed slowly. I'm not the woman you left either. There was no immediate response. She imagined him somewhere else in the city, perhaps staring at his own screen, perhaps crying. The thought unsettled her. Minutes passed. Then her phone rang. She stared at his name flashing on the screen. Her hand trembled as she answered. Hello. For a second there was only breathing. Then his voice, softer than she remembered. Hi. Silence stretched between them, thick and complicated. I watched it, she said finally. I know. Did you mean it? Yes. No hesitation. She swallowed. Why didn't you fight for us? He exhaled shakily. Because I didn't know how to fight myself. The honesty in his tone made her knees weak. She slid down against the cabinet and sat on the kitchen floor. I thought you stopped loving me, she whispered. I never did, he said. That was the problem. I loved you so much I couldn't bear the idea of disappointing you. You did disappoint me, she said, tears spilling freely now. You left. I know. The simplicity of his acknowledgement disarmed her. No excuses, no deflection. I'm not calling to ask you to take me back, he continued. I needed you to hear my voice when I said I was wrong. She closed her eyes, letting the sound of him fill the quiet apartment. Where are you? She asked. Outside. Her eyes flew open. Outside where? Your building. Her breath caught. I've been here since midnight, he admitted. I wasn't sure if you'd watch it. I wasn't sure if you'd answer. A mix of anger and something dangerously close to hope surged through her. You can't just show up, she said, though her voice lacked force. I know. If you want me to leave, I will. She stood slowly, her legs unsteady. She walked to the window and parted the blinds. There he was, sitting on the hood of his car, head bowed, phone in hand. He looked smaller somehow, more human. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought he might hear it from the street. I'm coming down, she said before she could reconsider. She hung up and grabbed her sweater. The elevator ride felt endless. With each floor, memories flooded back. The first time he kissed her. The way he used to trace circles on her back when she couldn't sleep. The sound of his laughter filling this very lobby. The doors opened. The night air was cold and sharp. It hit her lungs like a shock. He looked up as she stepped outside. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he slid off the car and stood in front of her, leaving a cautious distance between them. Hi, he said again. Up close, she could see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes. The vulnerability he no longer tried to hide. You look different, she murmured. So do you. They both laughed softly, the sound fragile but real. I was angry for a long time, she said. I told myself I'd never forgive you. That's fair. But I also realized something. She took a shaky breath. I realized I was terrified too. Not of you leaving, of needing you. He listened without interrupting. I made you the center of my world, she continued. When you left, I didn't know who I was. He nodded slowly. I didn't know who I was either. That's why I ran. The streetlight cast a warm glow around them. The city hummed quietly in the background. I don't want to go back to who we were, she said. It wasn't healthy. I don't either, he replied. I was hoping we could start from who we are now. The honesty in his eyes made her chest ache. Starting over sounded romantic in theory. In reality, it was terrifying. It meant risking the same pain. It meant trusting that growth was real. What if you leave again? She asked softly. Then I'll prove that I won't, he said. Not with promises, with actions. And if you decide I don't deserve another chance, I'll accept that. But I couldn't live with myself if I didn't at least try to stay this time. The word stay echoed between them. She stepped closer, closing the distance by a fraction. I don't need you to save me, she said. I've learned how to stand on my own. I don't want to save you, he answered. I just want to stand next to you. A tear slipped down her cheek. He reached out instinctively, then hesitated, waiting for permission. She nodded. His fingers brushed her skin, warm and familiar, yet different, more careful. In that touch, she felt the weight of the past and the possibility of something new. I'm not promising forever, she said. I'm not asking for forever, he replied. Just a chance to show up tomorrow. She studied his face, searching for the fear that once dominated him. It was still there, but it no longer ruled him. It sat beside something steadier, acceptance, responsibility. She realized then that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move toward what scares you instead of away from it. Okay, she whispered. Relief flooded his features, but he did not rush forward. He simply smiled, a small, grateful smile. Okay, he repeated. Tomorrow, she clarified. We start with tomorrow. He nodded, eyes shining. The night felt different now. Less like an ending, more like a beginning neither of them could fully see yet. As they stood there under the streetlight, the past did not disappear. It remained, woven into them, but it no longer felt like a chain. For the first time in 11 months and 3 days, Mara did not feel abandoned. She felt seen. And as Daniel slipped his hand into hers, tentative and trembling, she understood that love is not about never falling. It's about choosing again and again to stay when every instinct tells you to run.